Hi, everyone, and welcome to Around the Ladder. I'm Erika Steinberg, and this is the podcast about career paths that don't follow the usual script. We've all heard about climbing the corporate ladder, but real careers often zigzag, they stall, they take unexpected turns. If your journey hasn't been a straight climb, you're in the right place. I love the idea of going around the ladder and finding a path that really fits who you are. So, in this show, I get to talk with people who have taken unconventional routes by choice or by chance, and they've found success on their own terms. My guest today is Sean Gelchion. After starting his career in federal law enforcement and then moving into public investigations and consulting, Sean found his home in the legal sector, of course, which is where I met him, specifically in law firm operations. Today, as senior manager of talent operations and innovation at the law firm Beveridge Diamond, which is a big law firm for those who don't know firms, he's not just helping the firm run more effectively, he's building smart and scalable systems that support long-term growth. He champions innovation that aligns with business strategy, and he's able to drive meaningful change from within the firm. Sean also brings a fantastic energy to everything he does, and he's using it to challenge the status quo and to take legal operations to new heights, infusing a historically traditional industry with the kind of creativity, discipline, and momentum that it really needs to evolve. And while he's already made a big impact, he's just getting started, and I'm very excited to have him here to talk about his journey. Sean, welcome. This is such a pleasure. I always enjoy our conversations.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here and really excited about this opportunity to sit down and chat with you.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't remember. I remember like one of us connected with the other on LinkedIn. I can't remember who. And I just remember one of us saying, "Oh, like, yeah, let's get together and talk." And just like absolutely clicking from the start. I was fascinated with everything that you do. Especially, of course, all of the things that you're doing now in law firms, because I've spent my entire career working with lawyers and law firms. But you started on a different path. So, let's start with your career path. You started in law enforcement, then you moved into legal operations and innovation with a stop in consulting along the way, which is really not typical. So, would you take me through how that unfolded?
Sure, it definitely was not a conventional path by any means, but I really wouldn't change it for the world. I started in federal law enforcement at the United States Supreme Court, and I was a federal police officer there, then became an agent at the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General. And really, all of those experiences enabled me to have strong foundation and discipline and accountability and structure. And over time, I gravitated towards business and had an affinity for business ever since college. And I needed to come to a determination of what am I going to do for the next 25 years of my life? And am I going to be doing search warrants, or am I going to be using my brain in a different capacity? And so I had to determine which way I was going to go down a path of my life. And I was really excited at the opportunity to be recruited by Deloitte and to grow their investigations and intelligence practice and get into the consulting world. And I was really excited about that. So that's where I shifted my whole career trajectory into consulting, and that really opened up my eyes to how much value could be unlocked by improving different workflows and connecting the dots between different departments and businesses. And so from there, I ended up moving into legal operations in law firms, which I felt like was a natural progression for me, given my contextual understanding of law. And I just saw an opportunity to bring modern thinking into a space that was ready for transformation and deeply rooted in tradition.
I love that right away that you just saw this opportunity and went for it, which I think speaks volumes about you. And like you strike what my first guest on Around the Ladder was my cousin Shari, and she has a mantra that she follows: go through every open door. And I feel like that could be yours as well. Like just, go through every open door, just check this out, see what it's about. And now look, I mean, look where you've ended up.
I'm blessed. I really am. And I think every step along the way of this journey has been rewarding. It's helped get me to where I am today.
Mhm.
And I've continued to just build upon each and every step of this journey and look forward and look for opportunity. And how do I capitalize on those opportunities each and every day and become better and better and continue to challenge myself each and every day. And I think that's important.
Yeah. And I mean, I've spent my entire career in law firms, and one of the things that is true about law firms is that things are different every day. And there's always a new challenge. There's a lot of opportunity to use your brain. You're working with very intelligent people who, in turn, are working with some of the most sophisticated clients, companies, organizations out there. Let's talk a little bit about what legal operations means, because I think that some people, including myself, means like, okay, you're running the firm more efficiently, but it's a lot more than that. And people may not see the full picture of what someone with your experience can do. So, talk a little bit about that.
Exactly. I think legal operations is often misunderstood as just a process of management of tech support or, for a legal team, but it's really a strategic function. At its best, you look at legal ops as about designing and maintaining the engine behind the legal function, whether that's on the law firm side or the in-house side. There's legal operations on both ends. But it spans talent management, technology integration, financial modeling, looking at margins and costs, knowledgement systems, DEI, vendor management, and much more. So I don't look at legal operations as just one thing. It's a multitude of many different aspects that do contribute to one another and push forward to, at the end, move the firm in a positive direction that is more efficient, that increases revenue, and also sustainability and enhances retention. I think that's important to me, but it's not just about keeping things running smoothly. It's about elevating the whole experience by aligning people, process, and technology in a way that supports both the business and the profession. And I think that's important to call both aspects out, especially within talent. Legal ops is about building the systems and empowering attorneys to really thrive while enabling leadership to make smarter, data-informed decisions. And that's where we're at today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned retention, which is of paramount importance. I don't know what the statistic is for the past year, but I remember seeing something probably last year about 2023 that I think up to 50 or 60% of lateral lawyers left their firm within 5 years. And that is a huge opportunity cost and a huge loss for the firms and really for the individuals who are moving around because they have to uproot themselves again. I know that now we've talked about this before. Your work at Beveridge and Diamond is really focusing on optimizing the entire attorney life cycle. So I have a couple questions about this, and I kind of know the answers because we've talked, but I think that I found it so interesting. But what does it mean? And also, how does that translate into real value for the firm? Like, what are some of the benefits to the firm that they're seeing in attorney performance or in operational efficiency?
Sure. So when we say attorney life cycle, I'm talking about the full journey. That comes from recruitment to onboarding to development to performance advancement and even offboarding and maintaining relationships. When we talk about alumni, every stage offers moments where we can improve different outcomes, not just for the attorneys, but for the firm as a whole. And I think that's very important to be looking at it from that lens because if you look at some of the examples that I'm about to provide, each one has a key integral piece to the overall holistic process. And you can't just look at it for one different item. So, for example, we're integrating data with recruitment systems and how are we bringing in performance evaluations and tying information together? That helps us understand what success could look like early on. You
Mhm.
can map out work allocation against different development goals, which helps attorneys in turn get the right opportunities. Even onboarding can be optimized so new hires hit the ground running faster. What's important now? That's what I tell my team. What do they need to be efficient so that it's not overwhelming, but at the same time, get up and running so that they can effectively build time, especially if they're a lateral coming in. And all of this translates into higher engagement, reduced attrition, more strategic staffing, which in turn does affect profitability and also client service.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the clients have a more have a smoother experience really with the firm because of that. And the firm, of course, benefits. Are you here? Do you get feedback from the lawyers who you work with about what their experience is? Are you gathering data internally?
Yes, I think that's important. We need to continue to solicit feedback for every step of the process. And that's how we become better each and every day. That's how we look at where we can infuse technology into making things more enhanced so that it's a more enjoyable process for them, and not just for them in the future, but for other people that are after them and follow in their footsteps. So we're continuously evolving, and I think that's the real opportunity about this, and that's where no day is the same like the next.
Yeah.
And that's what I love because it keeps us on our toes, but at the same time, we're continuing to be not just reactive, but proactive in trying to forecast and look at things that could be a problem and how we provide solutions to them so that our attorneys don't even have to come across those problems.
Yeah, yeah. And can you, I mean, we've talked about data. Can you provide an example about how data helped change a process, shape a decision, helped you course correct when needed?
Sure. So if you look at where we're aligned from 7 offices geographically, understanding who's barred where across a map can be difficult, especially when matters come in different jurisdictions. So what we're actively building out right now is the ability to have a visual by way of Power BI where anyone in the firm can drill down into looking for who's barred where. And I think that's a real game changer for us because there's many different communications that come out and they're looking for people that are barred in certain jurisdictions. We have the ability to effectively go to one visualization in Power BI and you can go through a multitude of different filters and select jurisdiction, where are they located, what is their level, and all these different kinds of things, which helps people get answers to questions they have. And so that's what it's all about. That's the thought and that's the philosophy is how do we make it as seamless as possible so that people can have data at their fingertips when they do need to look for it. And that's exactly what we're building out right now. Hasn't been released yet, but these are all the things that we're building proof of concept. So when we get our data right, we are ready to go and we just need to plug in. And I'm really excited about those opportunities because time is money and money is time. And I think that's very important, especially in a law firm industry. And we need to be looking proactively at what is time consuming and reduce the administrative burden on
Hmm.
our attorneys so that they can effectively have more strategic relationships with clients. And that could lead in turn to more work. And that's how I look at everything. And it starts somewhere. And I like to think that we have a big role to play in this space. And we're continually looking at technology and different processes. And we just have a great team on board here, led by Amy Curran and Christy Miser. And we're just continuing to put our foot on the pedal, and we're continuing to go at lightning speed, and it's really great. So yeah, I'm really happy to be part of this team, and we're making changes. We really are.
Yeah, and you're making changes that make a difference for the firm because what you described is really cutting through the clutter of what lawyers have to go to. And the sooner they can cut through the clutter, the more easily they can serve the client and the more effectively. And I remember a while ago, I think this really was more about smaller law firms, but it could apply to larger firms too, that in smaller law firms, that law firm leaders were sometimes spending as much as 60 to 70% of their time on administrative matters. And if you are one of the sole revenue generator or one of, just a handful of revenue generators at your firm and it's a new firm and you're spending that much time before you even get to serving your clients, it's going to be exhausting. I mean, it just sounds exhausting. So, yeah, I mean, like, let's make it easier on our lawyers.
Yes, absolutely. That's the number one thing that I say to attorneys when I meet them for the first time, or they ask me, "Hey, so what are you doing?" or "What are you up to?" Uh, I always say, first and foremost, if I'm meeting them for the first time, I'm here to make your life easier. And what does that mean? And then I start diving into all the different projects and my philosophy of what I'm trying to do to make their life easier. I think it's one thing when you say something like, "I'm going to make your life easier," but um, I want actual concrete things that as an attorney, I could only imagine I would want to hear, well, how are you going to do that? And here's how, and I lay everything out.
Hmm.
And when we end the conversation, they said, "Wow, I had no idea that you were doing all of that." And I am behind the scenes for the most part, but everything that we do as a team will be shown and experienced by the rest of the firm, whether it's staff and or attorneys. And I think that's the beauty of it. We're impacting at a great level here that hasn't been seen at a fast pace. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's about making sustainable solutions.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I can only imagine what it must be like for lateral lawyers coming into Beveridge and Diamonds, and they're, meeting you and hearing about all of the things that are happening and that are coming up. They must be so excited about it.
Yeah, we're just scratching the surface,
Yeah.
really. I mean, we are getting a lot of foundational systems and processes and policy in place.
Mhm.
And from there, we're going to build on that foundation and we're going
Yeah.
to take it to new heights and we're going to continue to build and reduce the administrative burden. We're just getting started. And I think that's an exciting aspect for us. But we are making impacts already and it's really rewarding.
Yeah. From a technology standpoint, like how do you decide when to adopt a new tool versus improving an existing process? Like how do you come to those decisions?
That's a great question. Technology is central to everything that we do, but it's never the first answer. And what I mean by that is we start looking by understanding the process. Is it broken? Is it bloated? Or is it simply just misunderstood? Sometimes fixing a workflow or improving cross-functional communication is more impactful than just buying a new system outright. And that can be very costly.
Mhm.
So, we look at how a tool can create meaningful efficiencies, improve data visibility, or enhance the user experience. I'm all into looking at new tools and technology, but it really has to integrate well with the firm's ecosystem. So does it connect with other systems that we have? Are there APIs? Are they open? Do you have direct integration or not? So I really try to look at processes and technology for what they are and how they fit into the bigger ecosystem that we have and that we're looking to create or more robustly build out. But yeah, I think we just really need to avoid tool fatigue. And what I mean by that is ensuring that adoption plans are grounded and making sure that they're actually meet user needs and solve real problems. They're just not shiny objects,
Yeah.
essentially. And I think a good leader knows when to automate, when to streamline, and when to just step back and listen. So, I think it's not a one size fits all. I think you really need to take it for the situation that is brought to you and really have that investigative mindset that I'm bringing to the table and assess the situation and figure out what is the best viable option.
Yeah, yeah, because I could see it that sometimes it's not, you mentioned communication, that it could be a communication gap. It could be a gap in the existing process. And you don't need a whole new tool. You don't need a technology patch, that you really need to make sure that every gap is filled and that people understand what they're supposed to be doing and how.
Exactly right. And so those are things that we're continuously looking at and making sure that we're allocating our resources and our time in the right areas.
Yeah, yeah. I met somebody recently who does she does instructional design, and she and I talked for a while about that. I mean, she really opened, I should introduce the two of you. You'd probably get along really well. So, because she's always looking at that too.
Yeah.
So let's also, I want to go back to something that you said when we first started talking. You were talking about all of the different groups that you work with. You work with people in talent. You work on lateral integration, recruiting, finance. IT, obviously, because you're working with all this technology. So you are really working through people. It's not like all of these different departments report to your department or report to you.
Right.
So how do you approach the work that you're doing? Like how, you have all these cross-functional initiatives and cross-functional teams, I would imagine. So what's your approach in working through people to reach this common goal that's going to be helpful to the firm?
Yeah, we are really building a lot of relationships here internally to get things done. And so, um, yeah, I think it's important to call out all the other different departments that we work with, but legal operations in itself is inherently cross-functional. And
Mhm.
so, what does that mean? We're earning the trust across different departments that may not always speak the same language. And so, I focus on creating shared goals and framing initiatives in a way that highlights how each team benefits and how we can collectively work together to make a difference. And that to me has opened up many different doors here. And I think that's what, for me, success looks like early on is building those relationships and working together and trying new things that have never been done before. So whether we're integrating performance data with financial metrics or making sure finance, has what they need, but can also share information that we need from utilization perspective and see how we can support as a talent team the development of attorneys by having access to that data. It's really critical that we're translating our needs across different teams. What's important to IT may not be top of mind for other departments or attorneys and vice versa. So part of it is really being a translator, being a project manager, being a diplomat, making sure that everyone feels heard and invested. And from there, but these relationships have just blossomed into really great opportunities to collaborate and make different processes and or different adjustments to the systems a lot more easier to be done because we have relationships in place. So I tell my IT team as well that I can't do my job without you all. There's no way I could do this without the collective team, whether it is IT or HR or accounting, and even marketing for that matter.
Mhm.
Uh, like I said, we're just getting started with a lot of our projects, and uh, it takes a whole village to really get things off the ground because there are so many ramifications of when we make a change to a system, it does affect potentially other team members in different departments and colleagues. And so we need to be looking at the things holistically.
Mhm.
And it starts with having that rapport and having those relationships. So to me, that's how I've been able to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. And it's credit to all of them. But I submit a lot of IT tickets from the tech side. And, we have this running joke that I have so many tokens to use when I submit help desk tickets. So, but
Then
they
you have
said
to
I
wait for
haven't
them
used
to
them all. So,
reiterate.
yeah,
You got to
exactly.
earn more of those tokens.
Yes, yes. So,
I mean, as somebody
um,
who was in-house in law firm marketing for, 25 years, I can just imagine, like all of the ways that you can, in your role, uh, help the marketing people do their jobs more effectively and help and ultimately really, especially with those lateral lawyers who are coming in, like how do we get them off the ground running? How do we get them, how do we not just onboard them, but how do we really integrate them into the firm so they can go into their clients and to firm clients and really talk as quickly as possible about how the lateral, this new person in the firm, or how this new group, because this new person is here, can help serve that client, and doing that as quickly and as efficiently as possible, and in a way where the lateral lawyers are really part of the firm. I think that in lateral integration, it turns into onboarding and like, oh, here, you've got your computer and you know how to make copies now and you know what to do, but you're not necessarily really integrated into the firm. You don't necessarily, and I think that's what's behind that high attrition rate. So
absolutely.
there's
I
so
think
many applications for what you do on the marketing front, and then, of course, there's everything else. But
sure. And we haven't even gotten there yet, which I think is a really exciting opportunity. But
yeah,
to capitalize on data intelligence, client intelligence as well, bringing that together and packaging that information with competitive intelligence as
oh,
well into that, there's just endless opportunities from a marketing business development perspective to be able to create curated packaged content, really essentially that they can have before they even go through the door of meeting with a
yeah.
new client or someone that they've never even met at an existing client. So there's just a lot of work that we can do, and yeah, I had experience with that before in the past, given my intelligence background and
Mhm.
investigations, to really find niche information and bring it together so that it does actually help those conversations when they happen.
Yeah, yeah. And it also sounds like underpinning everything that you do is just this very healthy sense of curiosity. Like you're just naturally curious about all of this. I can imagine, like, were you the kid who was like, taking things apart to see how they worked? My son is like that too. So I can see that. Like, let me take this apart, see how it works, and I'm going to put it together again in a way so it functions even better. So,
Absolutely. I think all the time about how do we make things better
mhm.
and what does it take to do that. And I don't have the answer to everything, but what I do have is a curious mindset and the willingness to apply myself. And I take pride in that because it's helped me to get to where I'm at. For example, I probably wouldn't have left law enforcement if I wasn't curious about the rest of the world and the rest of my career,
Yeah,
right? So, you know, I think it's important to continuously think about, okay, we've been doing it for this way for how long? What's next? Can we make it easier so that we can do more things? And just applying yourself to learn new programs and processes and learn Power BI and Power Automate and uh, just continuously learn via YouTube or reading books or meeting with other colleagues in the industry in this space and just challenge yourself each and every day. And I
yeah,
think that to me is really rewarding and I've seen it pay off. And if I could do it, I know a lot of others can too. And so when I look at other people in the space and they're looking to break in to this space, or even when they're applying to a position and I'm interviewing them, I really look for intangibles. I think that's important.
yeah,
Yeah, the curiosity and the willingness to learn, you can't teach that.
yeah.
You just can't. And you can't fake effort either. And I think that's really important. So I think somebody with the right intangibles and the right mindset, you can do anything you put your mind to. You just really need to apply yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. You mentioned, your start in law enforcement and how it served you in investigation. So let's go back to there. Like, what was the biggest mindset shift for you, moving from law enforcement to Deloitte and then into law firms? Like, I imagine it is a big mindset shift, but maybe it wasn't. What was it like?
It was certainly interesting. It was a whole new world to adapt to. Just looking at the hierarchical of leadership and structure and just how a business operates. And so being able to go to Deloitte really enabled me to have a business acumen, learn, refine, and grow that acumen. And like I said, I'm really thankful and appreciative of that opportunity there. And it taught me how to be a business professional. So yeah, I think someone taking a chance on me from being in law enforcement and getting an opportunity to be in the business world was just really rewarding, and it was just an amazing experience. But you really had to shift your mindset to, okay, what's important for a business now? But it's the same principle of being able to help people, and that's all I've ever wanted to do, even when I was in law enforcement and growing up and aspiring to be in law enforcement was to make a difference, make an impact, and help people. And I've never lost that, across every place I've been to and every project I work on or the way in which I operate as a business professional. The bottom line is how do I help everyone else? And I try to not even look at myself as, well, how do I help myself? Well, I know that I'm making a difference and an impact. And I put others before me, and that's what I do even as a leader. Lead by example, but also make sure you have everyone's back, and that's important to be supportive as a leader.
Yeah.
And you have to build a great culture and one that is resilient. You're gonna have tough days, just like when you're in law enforcement, you're gonna have tough days, and you're gonna have tough days in business. Different levels, obviously, of what those tough days may look like in comparison between, having a paper cut or a carpal tunnel and then being in law enforcement and having a whole different type of outcome potentially. So for us in the business world, there are many different law enforcement professionals that have made a pivot and career transition, and they've done great. And I think a lot of them share the same sentiment. Is just apply yourself, be yourself. But the beauty of having this translation of a skill set is that we can talk to a lot of different people and we can communicate with people that don't want to communicate with us. And we find a way to meet people where they are.
Mhm.
And we're able to really get down to the bottom of different problems or issues that are arise. And we look into them because we have an investigative mindset. and we work on providing a solution to help people. That really is as simplistic as it possibly can be. And that's the mindset that I have. And so I use that every day in business, and it really helps me out. And so, there's a lot of people that are struggling and trying to make that transition and don't know how. But it's important to look at things in a simplistic manner and build upon that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can see how all of these skills that you learned in law enforcement would translate now. That sounds like, like just boiling it down to that investigative mindset and, like being curious about something. That's probably the one that has served you the best.
I agree.
At any stage in your career. I mean, honestly, I feel like in just about in many different careers, maybe not all, but many different careers, having that healthy curiosity and that willingness to dig into something and to make it better is going to serve you well.
Yes, and that's what I look forward to each and every day. It's never ending, and it's a continuous journey, but that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, yeah. So now you've been in law firms for a while now. I've been working with law firms for a while. We'll just leave it at that. There is, innovation in the legal sector can often meet with resistance. I mean, this is, after all, a profession that is built on, precedent is such an important concept that everything is built on something that happened beforehand. So, how do you bring people along when you're introducing something new and maybe you do meet resistance?
Sure,
Can you
I
just
think
arrest them?
resistance.
Can you just arrest them and just
I
maybe
think
not.
resistance is normal.
Yeah.
I think it's often a sign that people care, and especially in legal. But the trick is to really start small and stay transparent as much as you possibly can be. I focus on identifying a lot of the pain points that people are already frustrated about, and how do you build consensus off of that, and then bringing them along for the journey and co-creating some of the solutions so that they feel that they have some ownership over time to affect that positive change. Um, yeah, I think at times creating a prototype, proof of concept, it's low risk and high reward. Uh, there's different ways in which you can slice things up so that they're more knowledgeable or can obtain information in small snippets. Where when you talk about innovation, it could be overwhelming, but you really have to frame it in a manner that shows that it's not a disruptor as
Mhm.
much as it is a natural evolution. And I think that's important because it's all about how you articulate things here and prioritizing communication, whether it's check-ins or roadmaps or visualizations. And when people see innovation that makes their lives easier, not harder, they start to lean in more, and we start to have really good just calls and conversations about what we can do as a team and move forward with endorsement and support.
Yeah, yeah. And I would imagine if somebody's resistant, they're seeing a risk. Somewhere in there, they're seeing a risk to them, to the organization. And so being able to dig into that and get to the heart of, like what is the risk that they're seeing? So then you can talk about that and um and hopefully, show them that there's not a risk here, that it's not, there's not something, it's not like, oh, this might work out and it might be bad or it might be good. Like this is not going to hurt anything.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, I think collaboration fosters innovation. So bringing more people to the table to hear their perspectives
Hmm.
is helpful and it is warranted and is needed. And so those are things that I appreciate because we, as just legal operations professionals, may see things one way, where bringing other people to the table, they'll bring in their experiences and the way in which they see things, and that's how we become better.
Yeah, yeah. And so I would imagine that you spend a lot of your days talking to people all around the firm, and also a lot of your days, like head down, really like digging into something. It's kind of, but like really both hats.
Absolutely. Just having that relentless passion to affect change really helps, definitely, because you find yourself going down rabbit holes sometimes and trying to get down to the bottom of things and piece things together to understand how they work in conjunction with having these conversations. And you really just start mapping everything out and how you make one decision here and that affects this other decision and this process or this policy and so forth. So a lot of investigating, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I only have time for one more question. As usual, our conversations have flown by, and all of a sudden it's more than half an hour later. What
Sure.
advice would you give to somebody who's looking to break into legal operations, or really just even transform their career like you did?
Yeah, I think you just don't wait for permission to get curious. Just apply yourself.
Mhm.
I think legal is a great space for people who think analytically, communicate well, and aren't afraid of messy problems. My advice is start where you are, learn the business side, ask good questions, apply yourself with trainings, technology, certifications, volunteer for cross-functional projects, get exposure to other different departments and how you work and build relationships and build bridges between those departments. And I think most importantly, bring your whole background with you. Don't be afraid of showcasing some of the skill sets that you've had from other different aspects of your journey. You know, whether you come from law enforcement, HR, consulting, or somewhere completely different, those experiences will give you an edge if you apply them in the right aspects. And they've helped me tremendously. You know, you don't need a linear path. You just need a mindset of growth, adaptability, and impact, and have that tenacious grit that when times get tough, you just push forward and continue to apply yourself. And there is light at the end of the tunnel if you're looking for, that career transition and you're struggling. I know if I could do it, others certainly can too.
I mean, you make it seem so easy. Like you're so calm, you're so even keeled. I operate up here, and I'm sometimes like, even with my hands, when you and I talk, I'm all over the place, and you're calm and cool. So,
Yeah, I think it's important to never forget where you came from and having experiences of high stress situations and being able to manage emotions as well. When people are confused or upset or really having a bad day,
Mhm.
how do you help them find a solution to their problem or make their day better? And that's what it comes back down to is that impact and helping people. And that's a huge part of who I am. And I will never let that leave me by any means. So I'm really proud of the journey.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like I don't know how many lawyers know this, but I hope a lot of them do. But I feel like it bears, just saying it that so many of the people who are the business professionals who work in firms are also have the firm's best interest at heart and are really invested in the firm's success. It's not just the partners who own a piece of it, but it's a lot of people like you, like the marketing people, like all of the people around all these different departments are really invested in the firm succeeding. And so you've got all of these people really wanting to pull in the same direction.
We are, and I know I can speak for our team and a couple other teams, but we're actively looking at how do we make that user experience better? How do we cut costs? How do we procure more tools that benefit not only our professionals, but in turn, and how does that help them become more efficient and operationally? And that in turn can affect client relationships. So there's a lot to look at underneath the hood, and we're really just getting started, and we're making really positive changes, and so I'm very appreciative of that.
Oh, good. I'm so glad that you came on the show. I would really, I always tell you like we're going to talk again. And I would love to have you back on at a time when some of these things that you're working on are, like when you're in the next stage, now you're only scratching the surface. Let's talk again on here when you
So
have like dug down a little bit more, and you're doing the stuff that you really love doing. I would really like to hear about it.
absolutely happy to come back on.
Thank you so much. So
Thank you.
that is it for this episode of Around the Ladder. Remember, there is no one right way up. So take your detours, make your moves, keep carving your own path. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or a colleague who is on their own unconventional journey. See you next time.